Hi YouTube! So, welcome to my series on psych wards! I have been in treatment and in the hospital in the past for my eating disorder, but this is strictly about psych wards about my schizoaffective disorder. Now, the first time I ended up in a psych ward, it was a little bit of a shock because I was experiencing psychotic mania. Now, I was very paranoid. I had a lot of delusions. I thought I was being filmed live for a movie about my life. I remember walking down the street in Brooklyn and I was seeing actors, or like I was seeing people, but I thought they were actors. And I thought if I gave them a smile and a nod, that they were acting correctly. And if I went or like didn't look at them, that they weren't good enough for my movie, which is ridiculous. Now, the amount of time I spent in the psych ward was only between 3 and 5 days. It was very fast. I got there because I was I was dating someone at the time, and I was under the impression that he had bipolar disorder. I don't know why. I do know why based on the way I was perceiving him, but was the way I was perceiving him correct? Probably not. I was not in my right mind. Now, I showed up at his apartment one morning, and he was like, okay, like, I'm gonna tell my dad, I'm gonna go to the psych ward, whatever. I remember in the driveway over, I said something along the lines of like, I'm so glad it's not me ending up like in the treatment center, like something like that. And so when we got there, I gave all of his information, but at the same time, I'm the one that ended up with the gown on. I'm the one that ended up staying there. I remember I ended up in that room, and then I ended up in another room. They injected me with what I believe was haldol, and then I ended up in the psych ward. It's all very hazy. There was an ambulance ride, and the person I had been seeing, to be fair, he first got in contact with my therapist, but at that time I was so far gone that there wasn't really much she could do on her own. I remember I briefly saw her and she told me to see a psychiatrist ASAP, but I have a feeling the psychiatrist probably would have done what the person I was seeing had done, and that's like check me in somewhere. Or maybe just give me a lot of Haldol. If people in the mental health community, if you know what I'm talking about, woo, party on Haldol. Yeah, oh my god. The thing about Haldol is like, I've gotten injected in the butt because like it hurts the least, but it's a pretty wild drug. But so I ended up there. Now, when I was there, I was under the impression that I was on the show Orange is the New Black because it kind of felt like prison. No offense. There weren't really any groups, although I do have a memory of like sharing a poem I wrote in my little notebook. I wrote like a lot of poems. They weren't really good. There was one about a flip phone. I also did a lot of dancing, like so much dancing over and over and over, mostly to the song 3500 by Travis Scott. And I I had a lot of interesting experiences getting into people's cars, but I can make a whole other video about like mania and then psychosis and depression and stuff like that. But yeah, this psych ward, it operated like any psych ward does. It's like boring, mealtime, boring, mealtime, boring, mealtime. There weren't as many mental health workers that I can think of in this particular psych ward. I think it was my school's psych ward. And it's funny, like, I really thought I was on Orange is the New Black. Like, I talked to some of the people that were in charge of the psych ward, and I was like, like, I really think this is it. I mean, obviously, it wasn't all females that were there. There were plenty of males, but I had it in my head. And yeah, I remember the person I was seeing and his sister came to visit, and I was like, guys, like, don't tell anyone, but, like, I'm seeing Orange is the New Black, and it was really dramatic, and they were like, what are you talking about? And yeah, like, the little, like, things we would get our, like, food on were orange, and I was like, I'm telling you guys. But what's funny about that psych ward is I was able to leave, like, by myself, kind of. I mean, okay, so I was only there for a very short period of time. I convinced them somehow that I was able to leave, which is kind of strange to me. I mean, obviously, I don't think I could have done the amount of healing I need to do there. But like my therapist says, like, psych wards aren't really for healing, they're for stability. But I also don't think I was, like, stable enough to be going anywhere. But they decided I was, so I told them I was going to my friend John's apartment and that I was going to meet John. So they ordered me a car and just brought me there. I thought that was so bizarre because you'll hear in my experience with the second psych ward I was in, which I was in for 4 months, it was vastly different than that. And actually, people, like, the period of time between me being in this psych ward and the next psych ward was so short, that I was actually, like, people thought I was a missing person. They were posting on Facebook. People were asking the person I was seeing where I was, and he was giving the address to the psych ward I had actually just left. Now, they put me on a drug called Zyprexa. I could do a whole video on drugs. Honestly, for me, Zyprexa didn't really do anything. However, I do know people who love Zyprexa. Like, Zyprexa, really saved them and helped them a lot. So medication is very personal, and has a lot to do with your body chemistry and what works for you. So, I'm not going to say it's, like, a bad drug or anything. Oh my god, I just realized my meds are in the background this whole time, but, like, that's fine. It's kind of fitting. So yeah, that was my first experience in the psych ward. It doesn't sound as, like, scary or whatever as it really was, but honestly, it really was scary. And I remember when I was first laying in the bed and they told me I couldn't leave, I kept trying to get up, and then they put me in this, like, room that was, like, the doors were glass, and they said, try to read or try to sleep. And I was like, what? Like, let me out of the room, and I couldn't get out of the room. And for some reason, I had this, like, weird feeling that I couldn't close my mouth, that I was, like, sticking out my tongue for no reason. It was really bizarre. And then, like, a woman came in with, like, a tray full of sandwiches, and I was like, what is going on? I remember I, like, got up and, like, peed my pants. So embarrassing. Dude, the amount of times I peed my pants, like, in the psych ward is ridiculous. I think I'm gonna end on that note.